This is Module 12 for EDL 850. It is a case study, and my name is Jacob Anderson. Section 1, a summary of the case. This is St. Regis School District, which is located in a small town isolated from other big cities, and its meager funding is what they said. It gets some state allocations and then has two major yearly fundraisers. Mr. Sample is the principal. He's highly regarded in the public eye. The PTA agreed that incoming money should benefit students through technology usage, and they agreed on purchasing 20 new computers and software. The current situation is that teachers asked to supplement their curriculum with these programs that were purchased and installed on some of the new computers. Mrs. Lynn, who's the librarian, ordered some flash drives with intent to copy the purchased software and distribute to other teachers. Mrs. Williams is a third grade teacher who was just kind of delighted to receive the software, thought it would be a help for her class. Mrs. Brandon, though, was kind of a new teacher and is concerned about the new copyrighted software. So she stopped into the principal's office after school, concerned about penalties for knowingly violating copyright policy, even though other teachers were trying to promote student and adult success, and as well as just using the software. So, and then Mrs. Evans is just somebody that's on the PTA who's volunteering to make these copies of the software. Section 2 are legal issues. First of all, obviously, the legal side of this would be the copyright. The software program has been copied and distributed, but they didn't have permission. Teachers who knew nothing about the copyright and did nothing. So there's teachers that were knowingly using that material. There are obviously some legal issues there. But there's also potential for teachers who do not know about the copyright and still use the software. And that could be an issue. There could still be some legal issues there. For example, this goes back to one of our previous assignments. I took this fact because it just reminded me of this. The Houston School District was recently fined for infringing federal copyright laws, it said. The school district was required to pay $9.2 million after dozens of district workers violated federal copyright laws by repeatedly misusing one of Dynastudy's study guides. It seemed as though many of the teachers were unaware that it was illegal to be using and distributing material, or assumed that they wouldn't get caught. Some of the ethical issues would be, for example, proximity. Being secluded, it's likely that no one would find out about the illegal copying. Some of the pros with this illegal copying, if you want to call them pros, would be the school will save money, and the students honestly could benefit from using this copyrighted software. The cons, though, of course, teachers could get into legal trouble. Teachers that are not knowing about the illegal copying but do participate in its use may still be liable for letting it happen. There's a bunch of things that could happen in the cons. Obviously, like they would have to pay money and all this stuff, but those are some of the main ones. So a concise synthesis would be, as a principal, it's my responsibility to evaluate and determine the best plan of action to mediate and solve a dispute among the staff on the legal and ethical dilemma of copyright infringement, all while resolving the situation in a legal manner. Section 4, synthesizing the facts. So I said a lot of these already in the introduction, but Mr. Keith Sample was the head principal. It said for 3 years. Mrs. Lynn was the library and media specialist. She's the one that copied everything. Mrs. Brandon, the third grade teacher, it's her first year. She's the one that kind of got upset. Mrs. Williams was a third grade teacher that's kind of a veteran. And then Mrs. Evans is a PTA president. She helped make those copies. The school itself, like where this is located, is in a rural town 25 miles away from a large city. That city contains a drugstore, 2 grocery stores, and a few other small businesses. And then the school itself, it's a local elementary public school from kindergarten to 8th grade. There's 420 students, 2 teachers per grade, 2 special ed teachers. And then the school funding that they receive, like we said, was a minor amount from the state, but then a major amount from fundraising. Reviewing and prioritizing the situation. Could the conflict, the situation, or the decision be damaging to stakeholders or to the community? The community could lose faith in the school system if the wrong decisions are made. Also, the school could be fined, which could hurt the students' possibilities of future success. What individuals and groups have the most important stake? Well, obviously the principal, Mr. Keith Sample. He's trying to stay regarded as a respectable principal, but could lose the support of his town if he doesn't handle this properly. Mrs. Lynn could be responsible for a lawsuit and fired. She was the one that copied the software. and I can go jump down to the bottom because Mrs. Evans is in that same boat. She helped copy it. Mrs. Brandon could lose the support of her coworkers because she's going to administration instead of just taking the free software. Maybe the other teachers don't agree with that. And then Mrs. Williams could be liable for taking the copied software and using it. Reviewing and prioritizing the situation and the information. All the relevant stakeholders consulted. Well, I think a superintendent would be good to consult. I think they would want to know about what's going on. The school board would need to be consulted. And then I think, honestly, I put this in my next statement, can I learn more about the situation? I think a lawyer should be consulted as well. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know legally on this that a lawyer might be able to help with, and especially a school lawyer, if the school already hires a legal team, they would probably know more about this situation than I would. Do I know enough to make a decision? I think I'm close. I believe that the proper decision would be to destroy all copies of the software first, then look to see if anyone used or distributed the copies on their own. After this, I would host a presentation to the staff at the next staff meeting to inform them about the legalities of copyright. As for the staff involved, I would have to look at the culture of the school to see if this was a norm. I believe that firing would not be necessary if the teachers did not know any better, if they just didn't know. Pleading ignorance might be your best bet, honestly. And then I would have to play it by ear. A written warning might be enough, though, so you might not have to fire people. Section 6, some possible outcomes and consequences. For my first option, that would be just no action taken. As a principal, if I don't take action, that's setting a precedent on copyright that could lead to massive lawsuits. You're also setting a precedent for new teachers that you're going to side with the veterans, even if what they're doing is wrong. And then teachers and students in the short term will benefit from the software, even though it was illegally obtained. And I said in the short term because I don't know when. It might never happen, but it could happen where they would get caught. In a perfect outcome, I think, this is just my opinion, but the school would find every copy of that illegally downloaded software and destroy it. Mrs. Lynn is given a written warning for illegally copying the software. You've got to set the tone at that point. Though it may hurt your reputation as a principal, ethically, the tone needs to be set that we are law-abiding in our schools. Mrs. Evans will need a warning as well, but considering that she's not a school employee, I'm not entirely sure how to go about that. So at the next staff meeting, you would dedicate time setting policies and regulations for copyright infringement in the school. Intermediate strategies, I would fire this would be just your third outcome, I guess, just other things you could do. You could fire all teachers involving the copyright infringement, as well as destroy all the copies. But in a small town, it's hard to find teachers, so that's really probably not a great strategy. All right, so evaluating these options then. So no action taken, setting a precedent. Like I said, I'm not going to read through all that. I already talked about all those. If I don't take action, some of the pros would be students could benefit from the new software for a time. The school could save money. The school might not get caught. And then I have a con, the school might get caught. A litigation would cost more than the cost of purchasing the copies legally, most likely. And then teachers also think it's allowed to copy other things. So you're setting yourself up for a whole bunch of other stuff. Option 2. This is my perfect outcome. The school is likely to avoid litigation if caught early. This might limit other copywriting issues in the school. And con, teachers may get upset or not understand why you wouldn't want the best for your kids. Personally, I think staying out of legal trouble is more important than what people think about you in this situation. So my intermediate strategies, firing all teachers involving the copywriting and all of that, all the software copyrights. The pros would be litigation is likely avoided. Another pro would be setting a precedent that copyright infringement is not allowed even a little. But there's a lot of cons here. Teachers might get nervous and scared of administration, that they can get fired after one offense. Con, it's hard to find replacement teachers in a small town. And our last con is it's hard to find replacement teachers in this climate. Like if you're setting these tones and being so strict. Section 8, it's obvious. My best option, I've said it before, it's the perfect scenario for me, I think. where Mrs. Lynn is given a warning, because you are still setting a precedent that it's not allowed to copy materials without permission from the owner, but you're also letting her down easy. That's supposed to say. The warning might not have to be written, but there needs to be something communicated. If it can be done in a way that can resolve the tension between teachers, this is the route to take. It's just too hard to find teachers in a small town. The strategy also ensures the copies are destroyed. Okay, so I've got a little flow chart about how to implement this. The situation arises where a teacher copyrights a software. And then I said, well, first I would notify and obtain input from others that are at stake. For example, the superintendent, school board, maybe lawyer right away. And then how long has the software been in use is my next question. And I think it's a good question, but it doesn't really have any outcome. Over a month or in the past few days, I think there might be some smaller options there that you could look at if it was a few days versus, a month or a year or whatever. And then I go to, has it been used in the classrooms? Yes or no? If no, you just destroy all copies immediately, I would say. I don't think you're really in that much legal trouble if it hasn't been used yet. So you destroy the copies and then host a meeting about oh, we saved it. We don't want to do this, but we got to go through the policies and whatnot. And then if it has been used in the classrooms, it gets a little bit more messy. You got to determine who was using the software, destroy all the copies, determine if those who are using it knew they were using it, meet with the legal team and determine if written testimony is required that you should just have on file. And then written warnings would be given to all those people, just so you know, if it were to go to court, you have written things saying you've tried and you wrote these warnings and you've done something about it as a school. And then again, all roads lead to have a staff meeting because you have to communicate to the school about their policies and stuff, because obviously the policies are unclear at that point. Section 10, my NELP standards. I'm sure everybody here has read these, so I'm not going to read through those, but I've got further reflectively evaluate. I have in my plan it would be necessary to get advice from lawyers and the superintendent to weigh into the final decision. Communicate. It's necessary to speak to both teachers and hold a staff meeting outlining the copyright laws. Implement those laws, rights, and policies and regulations. Teachers need to understand that even though it may seem like it's best for students, copywriting can have a negative consequence for students and teachers alike. And then promote student and adult success and well-being. You're setting a good example by not copywriting, and you are not putting the school in financial trouble because lawsuits are avoided. And these are my references. Thank you for watching.